Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtiprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 4, Hiranyakashipu terrorizes the universe. Text number 37 onwards. Nyasta kridnako balo jadvat tanmanastaya Krishna graha grahitatma na veda jagadidrisham. From the very beginning of his childhood, Prahlad Maharaj was uninterested in childish playthings. Indeed, he gave them up altogether and remained silent and dull, being fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Since his mind was always affected by Krishna consciousness, he could not understand how the world goes on being fully absorbed in the activities of sense gratification. So this is how advanced he was. Even from very childhood, he gave up all the playthings, all the toys. Prahlad Maharaj is a vivid example of a great person fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. In Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said, Sthavar Jangam dekhe na dekhe tara murti, sarvatra hai nijya ishta deva spurati. A fully Krishna conscious person, although situated in this material world, does not see anything but Krishna anywhere and everywhere. This is a sign of a Mahabhagavat. The Mahabhagavat sees Krishna everywhere because of his attitude of pure love for Krishna. As confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Charita, Bhakti Vilochanena. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee, whose eyes are the pulp. He is seen part of the devotee. So this is a vision of an exalted, a Mahabhagavat. He sees Krishna everywhere. Why? Because his eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. The pulp of love, or it is said like that, kajal one puts on in the eyes. So his eyes is full of that kajal of love. So all he sees is Krishna everywhere. And not just Krishna everywhere. I mean, even Shishupal was seeing Krishna, Kansa was seeing Krishna, but this is seeing him with love. Everything they see is connected with love for Krishna. An exalted devotee or Mahatma who's rarely to be seen remains fully conscious of Krishna and constantly sees the Lord within the core of his heart. It is sometimes said that when one is influenced by evil stars, like Saturn or Rahu or Ketu, he cannot make advancement in any prospective activity. In just the opposite way, Prahlad Maharaj was influenced by Krishna, the supreme planet, and thus he could not think of the material world and live without Krishna consciousness. That is a sign of a Mahabhagavat. Even if one is an enemy of Krishna, Mahabhagavat sees him to be also engaged in Krishna's service. Another crude example is that everything appears yellow to the jaundiced eye. Similarly to a Mahabhagavat, everyone but himself appears to be engaged in Krishna's service. So, and see, another quality, he thinks everybody else is engaged except himself. It's rare to see or find such Mahabhagavats. Prahlad Maharaj is the approved Mahabhagavat, the supreme devotee. In the previous verse, it was stated that he had natural attachment, Nesargiki Rati. The symptoms of such natural attachment for Krishna are described in this verse. Although Prahlad Maharaj was only a boy, he had no interest in playthings. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Viraktir Anyatracha, The symptom of perfect Krishna consciousness is that one loses interest in all material activities. For a small boy to give a plaything is impossible, but Prahlad Maharaj, being situated in first class devotion service, was always absorbed in a trance of Krishna consciousness. Just as a materialistic person is always absorbed in thoughts of material gain, a Mahabhagat like Prahlad Maharaj is always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. So this was his consciousness, this was his mentality, always absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And that too favorably with love, completely in love. Hard to imitate this thing. It's impossible to imitate. We just have to try to follow his example and his instructions. Next whole chapter is his instructions. A wonderful chapter. Asina paryatanashna shun shayana piban bruvan nanu sandhat etani govinda parirambita. Prahlad Maharaj was always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, thus being always embraced by the Lord. He did not know how his bodily necessities, such as sitting, walking, eating, lying down, drinking, and talking, were being automatically performed. A small child, while being cared for by his mother, does not know how the needs of the body for eating, sleeping, lying down, passing water, and evacuating are being fulfilled. He is simply satisfied to be on the lap of his mother. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj was exactly like a small child, being cared for by Govinda. The necessary activities of the body were performed without his knowledge. As a father and mother care for their child, Govinda cared for Prahlad Maharaj, who remained always absorbed in thoughts of Govinda. This is Krishna consciousness. Prahlad Maharaj is a vivid example of perfection in Krishna consciousness. So when somebody is so much absorbed in the thoughts, fully surrendered, then Krishna will take care of such a person. And Krishna did. As Narad Muni is saying to Yudhishthira Maharaj here, just like a father and mother care for their child, Govinda cared for Prahlad Maharaj. Kvachit udradati vaikuntha chinta shavala chetanaha kvachit dhasati chinta lad udgayati kvachit. Because of advancement in Krishna consciousness, he sometimes cried, sometimes laughed, sometimes expressed jubilation, and sometimes sang loudly. So that's the symptoms of ecstatic bhav. This verse further clarifies the comparison of a devotee to a child. If a mother leaves her small child in his bed or cradle and goes away to attend to some family duties, the child immediately understands that his mother has gone away and therefore he cries. But as soon as the mother returns and cares for the child laughs and becomes jubilant. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj, being always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, sometimes felt separation, thinking, where is Krishna? This is explained by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shunyaitam jagat sarvam govinda virhena me. Means the whole world is void in separation from Govinda. That was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's consciousness or thoughts. For us, the whole world is shunya if I don't see my phone or if I don't see my laptop. That's how we are attached to our phones. But we have to be attached to Govinda in that way. When an exalted devotee feels that Krishna is invisible, having gone away, he cries in separation. And sometimes when he sees that Krishna has returned to care for him, he laughs, just as a child sometimes laughs upon understanding that his mother is taking care of him. These symptoms are called bhav. in nectar devotion, various bhavas, ecstatic conditions of a devotee are fully described. These bhavas are visible in the activities of a perfect devotee. So these are bhavas, not bhavukta. Bhavukta is sentimentalism that we sometimes show. But bhav at the stage of bhav, the anarthas are gone and one goes from nishtha and then ruchi, asakti, then bhav, and then prem. So Prahlad Maharaj was at that stage of bhav bhakti. Nadati kvachit utkantho vilanjo nrityati kvachit tad bhavana yuktas tanmayo anuchakaraha. Sometimes upon seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prahlad Maharaj would loudly call in full anxiety. He sometimes lost his shyness in jubilation and began dancing in ecstasy. And sometimes being fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, he felt oneness and imitated the pastimes of the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj sometimes felt that the Lord was far away from him and therefore called him loudly. When he saw that the Lord was before him, he was fully jubilant. Sometimes thinking himself one with the Supreme, he imitated the Lord's pastimes, and in separation from the Lord, he would sometimes show symptoms of madness. These feelings of a devotee would not be appreciated by impersonalists. One must go further and further into spiritual understanding. The first realization is impersonal Brahman, but one must go still further to realize Paramatma and eventually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is worshipped by the transcendental feelings of a devotee in a relationship of Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and or Madhurya. Here the feelings of Prahlad Maharaj were in the mellow of Vatsalya, filial love and affection. As a child cries when left by his mother, when Prahlad Maharaj felt that the Lord was away from him, he began to cry, Nadati. Again, a devotee like Prahlad sometimes sees that the Lord is coming from a long distance to pacify him. Like a mother responding to a child, saying, My dear child, do not cry, I'm coming. Then the devotee, without being ashamed due to his surroundings and circumstances, begins to dance, thinking, Here is my Lord is coming. Thus a devotee in full ecstasy sometimes imitates the pastimes of the Lord, just as the cowherd boys used to imitate the behavior of the jungle animals. However, he does not actually become the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj achieved the spiritual ecstasies described herein by his advancement in spiritual understanding. So these are the symptoms of Bhav Bhakti. I guess whenever we get to study Nectar of Devotion, we can discuss it more. But at this stage, the devotee completely forgets where is he, because he's in a different world altogether. His body might be here, but his thought process is in different world. And here Prabhupada says he is in the mellow of Vatsalya, but this Vatsalya was different in the sense he thought the Lord as his father or mother. Vatsalya is just like Yashoda Maya, thinking of Krishna as her son. Here Prahlad Maharaj is thinking of the Lord himself as a child and the Lord as a father or mother. Actually, Gaur Govind Maharaj has given a wonderful lecture in this regard. And he talked about desire of the Lord. Lord also has desires. Of course, we get the desires because the Lord has desires. We are part and parcel of Lord. So he described that so far, before Lord Nrsimhadev's appearance, Of course, I mean, all the incarnations, they keep on coming, repeating, but in a given sequence, if we look at. So far, just like when Lord Varahadev appeared, okay, he just picked up Mother Earth and put her back. He had some relationship with her because of that, just the touch of the Lord. This boy was born, who later became Bhaumasur. Or when Vaman Dev appeared, he just had some pastime with Bali Maharaj. But it was Narasimha Dev who had the real good interaction. But although it was a very short interaction with Prahlad Maharaj, because he came, he killed Narasimha Dev, and he satisfied Prahlad Maharaj. He gave instructions to the demigods, gave benedictions to Prahlad Maharaj, and he left. Not too many pastimes. But even when he was dealing with Prahlad Maharaj, and Prahlad Maharaj approached him just like a little boy, and he was a little boy. And Narasimha Lord Narasimha Dev had this feeling, these emotions of a father, of a parent. So then Gaur Govind Maharaj explains that, okay, then he thought, from now on, whichever incarnation I take, I'm going to accept mother and father. Because so far he didn't have, like Lord Varahadev, Vamandev, I mean, he didn't have that kind of relationship. Kurmadev or any other. So that's why after Narasimhadev, he came as Lord Ram. He had parents, Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He had parents because he wanted to taste that love of father or parent for a child from the child point of view, because Prahlad Maharaj was tasting from child point of view. And then when he came as Ram, okay, he tasted the love of Dashrath and Kaushalya. But then as Ram, he went into the forest with Sita and Lakshman. So he tasted the mood of separation from his parents also. And he liked it. Because in that separation mood, the love increases. So while they were in the forest, they had the desire, Sita and Ram had the desire to feel this separation from each other. Of course, the pastimes are all, you can say, scheduled, but the feeling was also there. So, and also Ravan had to be killed, so Sita was separated from Ram. And they really tasted that separation and the union after separation. And that is why when they were united after killing Ravan, but still that they said, no, that was different mood when we were separated. And I believe there is a cave in the Rishyamukha mountain, where Ram stayed for 4 months of Chaturmasya when Sugriva was enthroned, but then the rainy season started and he could not send any monkeys looking for Sita. So, and Ram had taken a vow that I will not go into any city. So he stayed in that cave. And it is said that in the cave, he drew with his arrow a mural or a painting of Sita, and it is still there. So they really enjoyed this mood of separation. And that is one of the reasons, or main reasons, that Ram banish Sita to the forest. Secondary reasons are there, but that's not the main reason. Main reason is this: even Sita ji also wanted to enjoy that, and that is why Maharaj says that when the Lord came as Krishna, he was separated from Radharani for 100 years, full 100 years, because that mood of separation was so great. And when he appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was always in separation. So that's what he taught us, the mood of separation. The love in separation is that it has no limits. Because a lover in separation will constantly think of the person or his beloved. And this was the mood of Ram and Sita, Krishna and Radharani, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is the mood of actually Lord Jagannath. He's always in separation. But anyway, coming back to this, Prahlad Maharaj, so he was already showing this mood of separation from the Lord, and then he would cry, and then the Lord would appear, and then he would start dancing and laughing in jubilation. Kvachit upulukas tushni maste sansparsh nirvrita aspand pranayananda salila melitekshanah. Sometimes feeling the touch of the Lord's lotus hands, he became spiritually jubilant and remained silent, his hair standing on end and tears gliding down his half-closed eyes because of his love for the Lord. When a devotee feels separation from the Lord, he becomes eager to see where the Lord is. And sometimes when he feels pangs of separation, tears flow incessantly from his half-closed eyes. As stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Shakshashtika, Yuga itam nimeshena chakshusha pravrishaitam. The word chakshusha pravrishaitam refers to tears falling incessantly from the devotee's eyes. These symptoms, which appear in pure devotional ecstasy, were visible in the body of Prahlad Maharaj. So sometimes he would cry, separation from the Lord. Sauttama shlok padaravindayor nishevaya kinjan sangalabdhaya tanvan param nirvritim atmano mahor dusangi sangadinasya manashavam vedha. Because of his association with perfect, unallied devotees who had nothing to do with anything material, Prahlad Maharaj constantly engaged in the service of the Lord's lotus feet. By seeing his bodily features when he was in perfect ecstasy, persons who were very poor in spiritual understanding became purified. In other words, Prahlad Maharaj bestowed upon them transcendental bliss. Apparently, Prahlad Maharaj was placed in circumstances in which he was always tortured by his father. In such material conditions, one cannot have an undisturbed mind. But since Bhakti is unconditional, ahatuki apratihata, Prahlad Maharaj was never disturbed by the chastisements of Hiranyakashipu. On the contrary, the bodily symptoms of his ecstatic love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead turned the minds of his friends who had also been born in atheistic families. Instead of being disturbed by the torments of his father, Prahlad influenced his friends and cleansed their minds. A devotee is never contaminated by material conditions, but persons subjected to material conditions can become spiritually advanced and blissful upon seeing the behavior of a pure devotee. So this is really high-level devotion service. Everything, the whole situation was against Prahlad Maharaj. So much so that he was being tormented by his own father, who was the biggest terrorist of the whole universe, who had just won over the whole universe. And that person, in front of whom all the demigods were coming and paying obeisances, he was trying to kill Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj continued with his bhakti. And what kind of bhakti? It was at the level of bhav bhakti. And on top of it, he was only 5 years old. This is bhakti. This is the level of bhakti we want to attain. That no matter what happens, our bhakti doesn't go down. And the tests will be there. Will always be there. And this is the example we have to remember always. How Prahlad Maharaj, as Prabhupada said, was never disturbed by the chastisements of Hiranyakashipu. He was always carrying on, continuing with his bhakti, and not just any kind, bhav bhakti, with ecstatic love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And seeing his example in the minds of his friends who were born in atheistic or this demonic families, they also turned, they also became devotees. We get little test by Maya, and we give up chanting, we give up Dharlop, Nikanti Mala, or Gopala. No, this is bhakti. This is what bhakti is. Great, great example. That is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was every day listening to this story. Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruv Maharaj. Of course, Dhruv Maharaj, again, great personality, great devotee. And but he didn't go through what Prahlad Maharaj went through. And of course, what Pandavas went through, what other devotees went through. But this is how Krishna glorifies his devotees, that no matter what, they don't give up my bhakti, they don't give up the surrender unto me, they don't give up loving me. So how can I give them up? Just like previously it was said, Krishna was always there, Govinda was always there to take care of him, just like a child. But because devotees don't give up on him. So this is the relationship we want. And at that level, okay, Krishna, no matter what you do, what your Maya does, I'm not giving up on you. I'm not gonna let you go. I'm not leaving. Or better yet, Krishna, I'm here. You don't leave me. Because how much we can hold on to. But if Krishna catches us, his grip will never let go. He will never let go. So that is a mood we have to develop. That is the mood. So anyway, we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, so we'll stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri.
Hare Krishna.